It is so predictable at this point that we are going to see market manipulation going into the weekend almost every single time. The Friday market reaction wasn't too bad. I mean, ultimately today we were trading pretty good leading into the candle close. And then after stocks closed out, all of a sudden we saw manipulation kick in. And this time it's coming from Trump. It's the same song and dance that was being played going back to January, even February, even March. And now it's starting to kick in again. We're going to be talking about this. We're going to be addressing it. We're going to be talking about how long this can go on for. But we are now starting to see more market manipulation. Now, let's just go over a few things. Number one, let's take a quick look at the daily. So in terms of the daily, the market is pretty red. On the weekly, same story. And then on the monthly, we also have now flipped red. If we're looking at this on the weekly, most of our altcoins are down, 6+%. HBAR down 9.3%, XLM down 13.3%, Ethereum is down even 8.2%. I know XRP wasn't doing the best earlier. I'm trying to find it here. XRP down 6.8%. So again, if we're looking at the market reaction here, yeah, it's been a rough week for crypto. Bitcoin has now hit 107.8K. We are looking at 3.3% on the daily, 6.8% on the weekly. Ethereum trading at about roughly 4,300, 3.7% on the daily, 8.2% on the weekly. And then XRP is trading at about roughly $2 and almost 80 cents, down about 5.2% on the daily, 6.8% on the weekly. Now, what exactly is happening here? What's going on? Is this market even going to bounce back? Is the top in? Is everything going to crash? Well, listen, I've said it many times over. We are going to see the largest chop and the most bearish price action leading right into altcoin craze. We saw it even back in 2020 and 2017. I've said this many times over already in the last couple weeks because it is true. We see the big wipeout right before the largest eruption to the upside. The largest move of the cycle has not even hit, and we need to make sure that we are not getting shaken out at this stage of the cycle. The main thing to look at here, though, is how has the market reacted to this recent move? Well, number one, the market cap of crypto is sitting at about roughly 3.74 trillion. We did hit a high of 4.19 trillion back on the 13th. So, a lot of money has been wiped out of the market. That's for sure. In terms of the fear and greed index, 39, we are now at fearful levels. We're at the lowest point almost going back to June. After that, if we are going to see extreme fear, then we will be targeting the April lows. And we already know what happened back in April. The bottom was printed in, and then from that point on, we just surged to new all-time highs, and we just went crazy. Now, the altcoin season index sitting at about roughly 58 out of 100. Again, altcoins are a lot stronger right now than Bitcoin and even Ethereum. And I'm actually going to be talking about this because I'm sure that when it comes to XRP, you might not be thinking that, because if we go back to that list real quick, XRP on the monthly is down 10.8%, but Bitcoin is only down 8.8%, and Ethereum is actually up 11.8% on the monthly. However, it's the levels in which we are losing on the charts that we should focus on for strength. And we're going to talk about that here in a moment. Now, let's go and look at Bitcoin real quick on the monthly, because on the monthly, we are down about 8.8%. We're at 107.8K. This is what the monthly looks like. This is what the yearly looks like as well. We are now dropping down into the highs going all the way back to December of 2024. This is a major sell-off. Now, this is something that I was talking about over on X as well. I said, and this goes back to the 21st, and I said this over the last couple of days as well, that it wouldn't surprise me if we saw 105 to 108K. I said, we are about to lose the May high on Bitcoin. If this happens, 105K to 108K is the next target zone. We are now getting this. And I also said this back in, on the 20th, actually, in the Discord. I said, with Bitcoin being the main focus from my point of view, is just holding the May highs. Lose that, and we target 106 to 108K, 105, 108, 106, 108. It's all the same, zone essentially. But if we're thinking about Bitcoin here, yeah, we just got the big drop back down into 108K. The question here is, do we just continue to drop into that 105, 106K area? We probably do, right? We probably see a little bit more volatility over the weekend. It is a 3-day weekend. We'll talk about that. And then also with Ethereum, And the main thing about Ethereum here on the yearly is where we are actually selling off from. We are selling off from almost new all-time highs. But we did hit a new all-time high, but it's almost $5,000. The question here is, where do we bottom on Ethereum? And I have a chart open that I want to go over just for reference. With how high Ethereum is in dominance right now, Ethereum is going to be the decider of how low altcoins go. Yes, so far, if we're looking at the monthly, Ethereum is still up in a big way while most altcoins are down. It's a little bit of a tricky situation when it comes to, how high dominance is on Ethereum. It's not the main driver. We're still looking at Bitcoin, but Ethereum, if it starts to break out again, it can take altcoins with it. And it's not going to be every single altcoin. It's going to be a select few. Not every single altcoin will follow what Ethereum does, but we should see Ethereum really kind of rise the tide, and then allow all of those altcoins, aka the boats, to rise with it. So we'll have to see what happens here with Ethereum, but I'm definitely watching it closely. And then XRP on the monthly. I mean, listen, we are about to target new lows on the monthly. Those lows going back to roughly the beginning of August. This is what the yearly looks like. Very similar to Bitcoin. I mean, if we're looking at Bitcoin and XRP on the yearly, it's a very similar situation where we're now targeting, we already targeted the highs, and now we're targeting those highs from the beginning of December because we already lost the January highs on XRP. Is this a big concern? I don't believe so, right? Again, this is a major wipeout. It's a major sell-off. It's definitely concerning for those that are new. Maybe you bought in a little bit late, but this is just a simple sell-off, a simple correction in the market. Now, what was the main driver of all of this? Well, it was Trump, actually. This is crazy, but I mean, this is the same thing that we were seeing back in the beginning of the year as well. So we have here, this is interesting. The U.S. Court of Appeals has ruled President Trump's global tariffs to be illegal 30 minutes after futures closed. And the ruling came out ahead of Labor Day weekend when markets will be closed for the next 3 days. Is this a coincidence? No, they are manipulating the market. They are constantly planning this out and manipulating the markets. Some big whales out there are buying this up and they know it, right? We go back to even 2021, right? They were wiping the market out and major congressional members were buying up a ton of stocks. It's the same thing, right? These big players know exactly what they're doing. They are all planning this out, manipulating the markets while the big money and the whales eat up and retail just continues to get wiped out or they completely get shaken out of the market. This is not a time to be concerned. This is not a time to get shaken out at all. Now, what's even crazier about this is moments after that post got posted, we did get this from Donald Trump on Truth Social. We have here breaking: President Trump releases a statement that all tariffs are still in effect and that the U.S. Court of Appeals incorrectly said that our tariffs should be removed. You don't know what to believe here because there's so much manipulation, so much confusion going around with this. And again, it's causing the price action, not just within crypto, but also stocks, because again, stocks have been, dropping a bit today. This is all causing a lot of pressure on the price action to break down. This is typical price manipulation. We saw this back in Q1 of this year, right? And everyone panicked back in Q1, and then April marked the bottom and the markets went crazy. Do I think that this is going to take 3 months to bottom out? No. I think that this is going to be a short-lived sell-off, but we have here from Trump, all tariffs are still in effect. Today, a highly partisan appeals court incorrectly said that our tariffs should be removed, but they know the United States of America will win in the end. If these tariffs ever went away, it would be a total disaster for the country. It would make us financially weak, and we have to be strong. The USA will no longer tolerate enormous trade deficits and unfair tariffs and non-tariff trade barriers imposed by other countries, friend or foe, that undermine our manufacturers, farmers, and everyone else. If allowed to stand, this decision would literally destroy the United States of America. At the start of this Labor Day weekend, you gotta love it, right? At the start of the weekend, we should all remember that tariffs are the best tool to help our workers and support companies that produce great made in America products. For many years, tariffs were allowed to be used against us by our uncaring and unwise politicians. Now, with the help of the United States Supreme Court, we will use them to the benefit of our nation and make America rich, strong, and powerful again. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Now, the craziest part about all of this is that it's always leading into the weekend. This is why it's price manipulation, right? They know that the markets are going to be closed. It's right after the futures closed. They announced this, and then, again, we see the markets break down. Now, if we're thinking about the markets, it's the crypto market breaking down. It's showing us the reaction that stocks will most likely have on Tuesday when we open. It all depends on what gets announced over the weekend. It is going to be a slower weekend because of Labor Day, but the fact that we have a 3-day weekend tells us that this is going to be prime time for crypto manipulation. We are going to see volatile swings, Saturday through Monday, and on Tuesday, well, we'll see what happens. But the main thing to look at here is how the S&P did close out, right? We closed out about roughly 6460. We made a new all-time high. On Thursday, we hit about roughly 6,500 exact. This was a great push to the upside. And the question here is, what happens next? With all of these discussions around tariffs and the trade war, is this going to erupt like it did back in Q1? Is it going to scare markets? Just for reference, this is what happened back in Q1, where the tariff war, really started. It started back in February. It started to really kick in. And then boom, we saw this massive breakdown to like 48.30. I don't think that we see that. We might see a slight sell-off on Tuesday, maybe depending on what gets announced. But I do think that the S&P continues higher from this point on. The question here, though, is with Bitcoin, XRP, and Ethereum, how low do we go over the weekend? Well, the main thing with Bitcoin is I think that we are getting pretty close to this bottom being printed in. I'm not expecting on the weekly, at least, right? If we're looking at the weekly, we should not close below this 101K level. We should maintain these lows from June. But if we're looking at the daily, realistically speaking, we should not close below 105.6K on the daily. I would love for us to maintain those lows going back to July 1st. It's questionable on if we are going to do so. Looking at like even the 3-day, again, the lows to be held here are roughly above 104K, which is why I think that we probably bottom out within this area here. Again, it's questionable on how low we can go if we lose this. I'll definitely be focused on it over the weekend. If we see anything crazy, I'll tell you guys, I'll make a video on it. But, I'm hoping for a strong weekly close here. With price manipulation, anything is possible. We'll have to see how exaggerated price manipulation gets over the weekend. But the main thing about XRP here is that if we are going to follow Bitcoin, and this is exactly what I was talking about with Bitcoin, right? With Bitcoin, it already lost the May highs. Guess what? XRP's May highs go all the way back here to about $2.60, $2.65. So XRP is technically stronger than Bitcoin right now. If we are going to follow Bitcoin and if we're going to lose the August lows, which is right here, then we would most likely target these levels down here at about like $2.36 to about $2.60. This is something that I would love for us to avoid. But with the weekend being here and it being a 3-day weekend, we could start to see some significant wicks to the downside. So just be prepared for that. Outside of that, with Ethereum, again, because of Bitcoin, we're looking at Ethereum losing possibly the August lows. We are already in this blue demand zone. If we lose the August lows, then we would be looking at the next level here. Just like, XRP, the May highs go all the way back down here to roughly like 2,700. The main thing that we're looking at here with Ethereum that's a little bit different is just going off of the July highs. The July highs would be around 37 to about 3,900 on Ethereum if we were going to target that level. It's questionable on if we do get that low, but again, the main thing to really watch here and the main thing to focus on is just prepare for volatility. Have stablecoins on the sidelines. Wait for price action to form on Tuesday where stocks really open, because if we do have a bad day for stocks, if next week is pretty rough for stocks, then most of the market will get dragged down by that. So we will see some solid buy opportunities going into next week. Again, does this change anything about the market? No, absolutely not. I still think that September is going to be huge, especially with the FOMC meeting. A lot of people will say, well, now that tariffs are back, does that change what the Fed could possibly do? I definitely think that it adds to their ammunition of excuses to say, oh, well, we want to just kind of hold rates. But I don't think that they hold rates. I think that we start to see rate cuts hit the market in September. We'll have to see, but that's my point of view on this. But with that being said, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys did, definitely leave a like, subscribe, turn notifications on because more free content. You guys are more than welcome to follow me on Twitter and join the free Discord in the description below. And with that being said, guys, Nick, thanks for watching. Peace out.